We are looking at the Age of Arthur mod for Total War Saga Thrones of Britannia. This mod was released in 2024 on Steam by modder Voodoo. As the title suggests, the mod takes the main campaign back in time from the Britain's Viking Age of the late 9th century to its Dark Ages of the early 6th century. There are 5 playable cultures, each represented by 2 playable factions. Some of those are also present in the base game. These are the West Cymru or West Welsh or Britain factions of Gwynedd and Stratclwyd, and Gaelic and Pictish factions of Mede and Sirken. Their names and mechanics are the same, but their leaders, units, and unit skins and names of their cultural groups were changed to better fit the time period. For example, at that time, the kingdoms of Caledonia were still Pictish and not yet Gaelic. Next, we have the East Cymru, representing those Britons who live in today's England. Their main representation is the man himself, King Arthur, who leads a faction called Caer Gwyntoig, which is located in southwestern England. The other faction is the Kingdom of Penguern in western England, led by Ambrosius Aurelianus, another important character of the period and of the Arthurian legend. Moving on to the Anglo-Saxons, we have the culture of Angles, playable as the Kingdom of Bernicia in northern England, and as the Kingdom of East Anglia in, East Anglia. The last playable culture are the Saxons, represented by Wessex and Sussex, both located in their eponymous regions of modern-day England. Now let's jump into the game and take a closer look at the campaign. And here we are as the King Arthur's faction. Just like the base game starts in 878 AD, shortly after the Battle of Ennington, where Kingdom of Wessex defeated the Viking East Anglia. Age of Arthur mod starts in 520 AD, 4 years after the traditional date of the Battle of Mount Badon, where Britons defeated the Anglo-Saxons. In both cases, the invaders' advance has been stopped for some time, which in both campaigns is represented by this diplomatic bonus, simulating the effects of armistice between the two rivals. However, this period is not called Dark Ages without a reason, as we have only a handful of written sources on Britain in 5th and 6th centuries AD. So even though we have the Battle of Badon attested from 6th century, we do not know the exact date, size of armies, participants, or even the place. But here you can see Badon being represented in one of its theorized locations. Same is the case with the factions, whose names are mostly attested later, or are taken from the earlier Roman names, and whose borders are based on boundaries of later kingdoms, or are an educated guess. However, I think the mod still captures the spirit of how the political entities might have looked like in this period. For example, since Anglo-Saxons arrived from the east of Britain, the Kingdom of East Anglia is the most powerful of their kingdoms, since here they had more time to centralize, while Midlands of England are dotted with various smaller Anglo-Saxon factions, because here they arrived later and thus had less time to centralize. Also, the Kingdom of Bernicia is at this stage small, because Angles here just arrived, as they are thought to establish Northumbria in 6th century. Also, the Britons or Welsh are divided amongst many different factions. As contemporary monk Gildas said, Britain has many kings. However, the names of places and peoples you see here are not mere invention. We actually have some names that are mentioned by contemporary monk Gildas in his sermon on the ruin of Britain. That is, Kingdom of Damnonia in Cornwall and Kingdom of Demete in Wales. In the base game they are called Defena and Devet respectively, which I think are their names in Old English, which was kept by this mod. Then we have characters as Malgun, King of Gwynedd, and Ambrosius Aurelianus, although he is not associated with Pengwern or any particular kingdom. From later sources we have in the mod other famous people. Of course, King Arthur himself, King Weha of East Anglia, mentioned in the 9th century work Historia Brittonum. Then we have Elpa, father of famous first king of Bernicia, Ida. Elpa was mentioned in Historia Brittonum and 9th century Anglo-Saxon Chronicle. There is Cerdic, first king of Wessex, mentioned also in the Anglo-Saxon Chronicle, and Octa of Kent, who was mentioned in 8th century Ecclesiastical History of Britain of the monk Bede. And Octa was son of the famous Hengist, who was one of the legendary first leaders of the Anglo-Saxons coming to Britain. Lastly, there is Isel, famous legendary founder of the dynasty of Iklingas of the later powerful kingdom of Mercia, which now is just a small Anglo-Saxon faction. I'm not sure why is there a separate Inklingas faction, but that's not really a big of the deal. Speaking of factions, besides the 10 playable factions, there are other ones that would have been cool to play as. We have here already mentioned the Kingdom of Dyfed or Devet, which in this period was basically part Brittonic, part Irish. We have the Kingdom of Dalriata, founded by Irish on both sides of the North Channel, spreading the Gaelic language to Scotland. We have Kingdom of Powys, later an important Brittonic kingdom in fights against the Anglo-Saxons. We have Kingdom of Kent, according to the legends, the oldest Anglo-Saxon kingdom. We have Brittonic Kingdom of Reged, later ruled by famous Urien of Reged, who led a coalition of Brittonic kings against the Anglo-Saxons. And we also have, for example, the Kingdom of Gododin, famous for the poem I Gododin, recounting the campaign of its 300 warriors against the Anglo-Saxons, and 2 being the legendary origin of the Gwyned's founding dynasty. Now, the reason there are not more playable factions is that the modder created the 10 playable factions by modding the already existing ones from the base game, which I completely understand as a starting modder myself. Thus, not only Gwynedd and Mead are the same factions as in the base game, although with time-appropriate unit skins and leader names, but Caer Gwynthwyk is based on Wessex, Pengwern on Mercia, East Bernicia on Northumbria, East Anglia on East Anglia, Wessex is based on Sudreyar, and Sussex on Difflin. Now, this is an interesting positive for player. If you like to collect achievements, but are tired of playing with or against the same factions or in the same regions, like when you play as Wessex and you conquer East Anglia, then you play as East Anglia and conquer Wessex, etc., etc., etc. This mod will not only refresh your playthroughs, but will allow you also to collect achievements when playing as new interesting factions. You won as Wessex in base game, now you can give East Anglia a go and fight against the Britons and King Arthur instead of once again fighting against the Anglo-Saxons. Also, even though each faction and culture has a unique mechanical bonus, they are still the same as in the base game, but they have been in some cases renamed to be time appropriate. For example, here as King Arthur for East Cumbria, instead of Burgal system, you have the tributum, which means tax in Latin. And instead of Firth, you have Limitani, who famously were late Roman border soldiers. Besides this, some factions, most notably the East Cumbria, got plenty of new units, giving them that post-Roman feel with units of comes, comitatus, pseudo-comitatenses, and the Sagittari and others. Last but not least, the generalist models are also changed to better fit the feel of these factions. Here you see the post-Roman Britannic general, and here you have the Anglo-Saxon general as an example. So that's all for this overview, and in the future videos we will take a closer look at units and at some of the playable factions. See you in the future.